Was that a duck call? How fitting. Welcome in, everyone, and welcome to the all-new Oregon Ducks live show right here on the Oregon channel of the Voice of College Football. Same thing every week. You have me with Ben of Ben and Sam. We've got Sean. We have Spaz, who is still trolling Deion tonight. And we have Derek down in the corner. How you guys doing tonight?
We're good.
Absolutely amazing, man.
Doing amazing here.
Excited, ready to move on.
How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing amazing here. It's a good day to be a Duck.
Not much to complain about this week. I'll say that. I mean, not too much to complain about. And that's it. We just get off of this week with obviously the prime time ordeal, so to say, of the hype train coming to Eugene to take on the Ducks. And I know you guys did, the post game because I wasn't there. I couldn't make it that night. But let's go back and give your almost if you did a final thought after that game during the post game, Sean, like that final thought you would have of that game.
For me, it's definitely the first complete game we've seen all season in every single aspect: offense, defense, special teams, coaching. It was definitely a complete game, and that was kind of my final thought there. And to see the hype train go off the rails just made it even better at the end of the night.
Spaz, what do you have?
It was just a dismantling of the hype train, and now it's it's time to move forward. Exactly, it's time to get ready to chop that tree.
That's very short and sweet. I like that. That's exactly probably Lanning's comments too. Just say that's done with. All right. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean summarized it best. I think it's the first game that we've seen all year where in all three phases of the game, it was executed very well in both halves of the game. I think, obviously, we'll as we'll get into a little bit here, I'm sure, the pregame speech, it really showed me there was a different level of intensity this week, and I really thought that carried out onto the field. We saw that with, the amount of physical play out there, which was really encouraging to see. But, yeah, it's really nice to know that, when the spotlight's on, these guys hunker down and it's all business.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with all of you at this point because, of course, I was traveling, so I didn't get to see the game live except for the first half. I managed the first half, then I had to go out, and then they literally turned off the game at the restaurant I was at because it was so boring. Everyone's like, why are we watching this? So they went to Utah, UCLA. I was like, nah, so play-by-play. But I did see the pregame speech during the first half, and you could. I think from the kickoff immediate when Brian took it out and did the little twist kind of spin over top of the guy and didn't go down before he got tapped. I was like, wow, for some reason they look like they're playing really fast today already. And yeah, from start to finish, I thought it was, for the most part, a pretty complete game. There was still some here and there little things.
Penalties.
Yes, yeah. We're definitely going to bring that up because there was still a little bit of that going on, which is not good to see. A couple, whatever have penalties, but a few that should have definitely been avoided. Then
we got to keep killing ourselves with false start penalties and stuff like that. Those are the ones that are going to kill you against the prime games.
Yeah, it was nine for 80, if I'm correct, off the top of my head. Nine penalties, 80 yards. I know we had Hill had a unnecessary roughness, basically roughing the passer but it was unnecessary roughness because he threw Sanders down kind of a little late. I mean, there's 15 yards. Then we would be talking 8 and 75 and be like, okay, not too bad. But it's those ones. Clean those ones up. Clean those really simple ones like that, or the false starts up, especially when you're at home. False starts shouldn't be happening when you're at your home stadium.
Yeah, I think it was nice to see that, although there was 8 penalties, you obviously want to see that number go down. You didn't see a lot of penalties in those critical situations, so you're not seeing these personal fouls happen in 3rd and long situations. And, I don't believe any false starts came on when we're looking at like a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 situation. So yeah, like you said, it's ticky-tacky penalties that definitely need to get cleaned up heading into some of these more intensive games. But, take the good with the bad, with a grain of salt.
I think it was the first drive. It was the first drive because I texted you guys while I was watching. I said, I'm liking the tempo. They were moving down the field up tempo a little bit. And then there was 2 penalties, I think, in the red zone that backed them up. Like, I don't think they were consecutive penalties, but it was penalties that stopped them for at least within the 30. They still scored a touchdown, so at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. But it was kind of like, ooh, that could be a drive killer. So, and I think some of that could have been just the hype, getting out there, taking out their frustration a little bit, which, again, we still will get into here. And we'll let Spaz go full screen and have a rant, like 10 minutes or something. So what did you guys think about, minus the penalties, which, again, we're still not, again, it wasn't a game killer by any means, but needs to be addressed, and I'm sure, Lanning is always looking at that. Offensively, like, Sean, what did you like what the offense was doing against Colorado? Because, I mean, we all said it would be a higher scoring game for Oregon.
We all did, yeah. Correct. Like, that's for sure. Like, we all really, really love our offense and what we can do. As far as like the penalties go, the offensive line false start stuff, that's coming with, for the past 3-4 years, we've had an offensive line that has stuck together pretty much and has stayed there. So now it's almost a whole completely rebuilt offensive line. So as we get further on in the season, these false start penalties, things like that are going to kind of be null and void. May still get 1 or 2 here and there, but, let them learn, even at home. But the offense, like, that's going to the offensive line again, seeing that push against their defensive line was to be able to open those holes for both Noah, for Jordan, for Bucky, like Bucky to go like 10 for 89, 8.9 yards a carry. Like, that's something we haven't seen all season, even against the Portland State and the Hawaii. Like, we didn't see that much. The past game, Bo was lighting it up again. There were a couple throws that I think he could have done a little bit better on, the interception throw. That could have been one, you got to hit him a little bit earlier. You tried to hit him a little too late. And at that point, Shiloh just made a great play. What can you say about that? But offensively, there's not much really to complain about there other than, hey, we did take our foot off the gas for a little bit. Would have liked to see a little bit more scoring, but can't really complain much about it.
I think Terrell and Warren and Chauncey and all the Colorado alum there on the sidelines got what they deserve. They got a taste of Dan Lanning's humble pie. For those of you who didn't know, Colorado's sideline had Chauncey Billups, had Terrell Owens, had Warren Sapp, who rumor is he's adding to his coaching tree, and a couple other Colorado alum that are pretty famous. at one point there's a picture you see of Deion sitting on a stool, and you have Terrell Owens on one shoulder and Warren Sapp on the other shoulder, and Deion sitting in a chair like this.
What do you think about the
Oh,
offense?
and Keyshawn. Yes, and Keyshawn.
This isn't the Deion show, Spaz. I'm talking about Oregon here. What did you like about the Oregon offense? Because
I liked everything I saw on all aspects of the game. I mean, offensively, we just the first half it was over, and they just let off the brakes and just kind of cruised. I thought after that halftime speech that Lanning gave that we were looking at another 70, but I think he just felt a little mercy and decided to let off the train a little bit.
I think that's fair. And Derek, what about you? While we're doing this, Buffalo wrap up can't be focused on prime time.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we really got to see what Oregon's identity is going to be like on offense. I think, obviously in the Texas Tech game, you would have expected to see that a little bit more, but I feel like just because of the way things played out and Tech taking the lead early and just kind of running with it for a little while, we kind of see them get away from their game plan, get away from their identity, just to, try to get themselves back in the game. But it was a nice balanced attack for the most part. The running backs, for all three of them running very hard. As Spaz alluded to, we saw Bucky Irving run through 3 defenders every carry. It seemed like, throwing dudes off his hip left and right, chunking off 8.9 yards a carry. That's, a D1 P5 football. That's insanity. So it was really nice to see the backs running. The offensive line, I think there was 2 Boa sacks, but overall I thought they played a phenomenal game. And then, obviously we know what we have with our passing attack. And Colorado knew what was coming to a point. I did watch a little insider scoop thing, and it was during a Colorado timeout, and Deion's sitting there, and he's going, they're going to take a shot right here. They're taking a shot. Be ready, be ready, be ready. And then Troy Franklin runs down the middle, runs a deep post for a touchdown, wide open, and it just kind of showed that Oregon was scoring at will. They could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, seemingly so in the first half at least. So it was nice to see that, when they really wanted to step on somebody's throat, they opened that offense up, and it was great. In the second half, I know we were kind of talking before the show a little bit. I think they did take the foot off the gas a little bit. I think part of that was, when we talked about them pulling Bo to a point, I think part of that was, you really want to limit your risk of injury there. It's a very long season. We got a lot of games coming up that we're going to need the healthiest squad possible for. And, you don't really want to put your guys at risk more so than we're already getting banged up throughout the game. But overall, man, the offense looked great. I mean, if we have any shell of that going forward, I'm very confident with our offense throughout the rest of the year in all phases of it.
Yeah, I'm the same as you guys. I mean, because that's it. For a little bit there, Bucky and Whittington were rushing probably 10 yards a carry or more for a little bit there. It was, I believe, 2nd and 21, and they just did a handoff to Bucky right up the middle, and he got like 25 yards. And, their DC, Kelly, right? Is it Chris Kelly? Colorado defensive coordinator. I can't remember his name. I know his name, but I can't remember right now. He just looked like, what the hell? Like, just.
Well, I thought it was funny. They would pan to him every so often. I remember after a Bucky run in specific, they panned in on him right away, and you see him on the sideline, and he's just holding his head going, what the fuck are we doing here? It didn't matter what they drew up. That Oregon wasn't going to be stopped. They were on a mission, and they delivered.
And we were correct projecting the big thing for Colorado was they're terrible at rushing the ball, and they're terrible against the run. And Oregon proved both of those points, I would say, in pretty dramatic fashion overall. Because obviously I want to get into the defense too quick, but while we're here, since we're here, oops, I don't want that full screen. How do I get out of there?
I mean, at the same
There
time,
we go.
I mean, at the same
There
time,
we go. That's a little better.
same time, how many times did I tell y'all that you want a kid to throw, 50, 60 times a game with no rushing game? Eventually, that's going to come back to bite you in your ass.
I mean, obviously, this is, minus the sack yardage, which was pretty significant. For a while there, it was really piling up with 7 sacks. But that's it. 89, 54, 45. Their top rusher was 5 for 31. So they rushed for a total of 40 yards. That's 21 yards less, I think, than it was their average before the Oregon game. They are not a good rushing team. And I think we're pretty much on point, 240. So we didn't even push it, I don't think, too hard after they called off the dogs, so to say.
Well, and Bo
One
had
thing I will say, we got
passing, so it was another balanced game essentially between passing and rushing again.
One thing I will say we got to clean up is third down conversion. 3 of 10. I just noticed that when I was looking at the stats.
Yeah, the third down was surprising when I saw that stat, despite what the score was. I was like, wow, really? Only 3 of 10, though. That was a little – that one was a little surprising.
That would explain the 42 points and not 60.
Well, I mean, you also got to think, too, in the second half, there was a lot of Ty Thompson. So at that point, obviously, we aren't huge fans of him, but – there were, 3 or 4 series Ty was in, and pretty much all punts. Maybe we had 2 or 3 punts, but, at that point, we didn't have many third downs in the whole game, period.
Now, and at that point, we had lost Winnington, so.
Yeah, I think there comes a point where you, like I said, you kind of hit that risk management, and like I said, if you're playing a game and you only have 10 third down situations that you even have an opportunity to get into, that's impressive. You're doing something right there. You saw a lot of, first down to first down conversion. You saw a lot of second down conversions, but yeah, it's, third down overall throughout the year. Oregon's been pretty good on third down. So it's not really something I have a concern about going forward. Now, if this becomes a trend and we see it again this weekend and, after the bye week and so on and so forth, obviously there's a major issue there, but just with how everything looked this weekend, it's, I'll give them a little grace there.
Then I guess it's, besides Tony here, this is the part of the game I kind of missed, but yeah, again, at that point, they just pulled back from being aggressive. That's definitely why part of the scoring didn't change really. But I mean, I have to say the star of the show was the defense. Definitely the defense in this game, because we all said, and we'll get to the whole score prediction and stuff later on. We all gave Colorado benefit of the doubt and said, oh, they're going to score at least 24 points probably. I think we all said at least 24. I'd have to go back and look at the final numbers, but yeah, that was surprising to say the least, I think, how the defense played against Colorado.
Yeah, I think we definitely saw like a best case scenario here. You know what I mean? I think, coming into this game, obviously we didn't expect it. I don't think there's anybody in the nation, outside of a few select people. Obviously the national media never would have thought this would have happened, but this was absolutely a best case scenario. This, like, we want to talk about a complete game on the offensive side of the ball, the same way with the defense. I thought the secondary was absolutely lights out. We saw our linebackers were aggressive. They played coverage well. The defensive line, as we saw from the 7 sacks, they were getting home frequently. The amount of QB hurries and QB rushes that were taking place throughout the game were phenomenal. Shedeur Sanders, that man was never comfortable. You could see it the entire time. So it was a very encouraging.
Kareem Jackson, that kid was
Kyrie.
Kyrie, yeah.
I believe that was I believe that was someone that I said was going to be the standout newcomer, maybe, or was impressed with, and he stepped up this game. I was like, ooh, he's holding his own out there.
Well, I mean, you go back a couple weeks, Texas Tech. He's the one who had like 2 pass interference calls, and then you get matched up against like Dylan Edwards, Xavier Weaver, and you're having your head towards the ball. You're not looking back. You're not doing any of that. Like, he could have had a pick to Xavier Weaver, but Weaver just knocked the ball out. So the cornerback play was just immaculate. You know, you seen the stat there too with Evan Williams. He's a safety. That's part of that backfield in the defense. Like, that was a sack and a half from him. So that defense was a monster. They came in. They wanted to hit. They wanted to show.
The secondary blitz packages were phenomenal.
A defense, they wanted to show who really you're messing around with at that point. Like,
well, which is funny too when you think about the blitz. You just said blitz packages. Half of that was just pure rush off of 4 guys. I mean, there wasn't even like I'm sure they did some blitz in there. I'd have to go like play by play by play, but a lot of that was just literally collapsing the pocket, maybe a little movement on the line. You know, a guy doing a little twist here and there or whatever. But I mean, like, yeah, there was nothing exceptionally crazy. They just pushed that line around for Colorado. And yeah, Shedeur was like, he would drop back instead of step up like a step or 2. He would just step 3 steps backwards and then go, uh-oh. Because at that point it was too late.
Who's small now, Shedeur or Shiloh?
Well, something I mentioned on Saturday night was like Shedeur was taking 5 steps back. He wasn't doing a 3-step drop, and that's just because we were making him uncomfortable. Like, he had to have a bigger drop back.
Yeah, you said that, and then I was rewatching some of the highlights, and you would see even Bo take, say, 4 steps. He might take 4, but then he would step up 1 immediately as soon as the pocket kind of went like this. He would step up quickly, then throw it. Shedeur never does that. He just drops back, stands there, and then continues to go further back. And that's I don't know if that's just because of the line and he's scared, or that's just his game and how he works. But if it is, that's not. Yeah, he's not going to last long because he's about to get into the real defenses. Which I mean, this was a good taste by all means. I'm not degrading at all or saying anyone's even better than we are, but he's going to be facing this almost week in, week out now. Even against some of the lesser teams, he's going to start facing bigger lines than he's been seeing.
Right. I mean, you were seeing
the conference defenses are much more than what he's faced so far. Bigger than anything he faced at Jackson State as well, really.
Well, even if you go back and you look at some of his Jackson State tape, he kind of did the same thing of, like you're saying, just kind of stand there and just continue moving back. He didn't move up in the pocket, and that all just shows in a veteran quarterback like Bo at that point, that Bo has that pocket presence, whereas Shedeur doesn't have that presence.
It's that Tom Brady effect.
It's that daddy's money, I'm sitting in a Rolls Royce Phantom effect.
Well, talking about we can't spend all day on talking about Colorado. I don't want to be like the rest of the media. So let's get right into the dirty here. So for those of you who don't know, if you've lived under a rock and didn't watch the game, which is I think most people here probably did, because I don't want to keep share screen then pulling it off, but I'm going to for this because outside of the numbers are a little skewed. I think the final numbers still haven't come out for sure. This ad was pulled, or article was pulled about 5 hours ago, so it's pretty recent. This shows the Deion effect. because this was apparently the most watched game over Ohio State and Notre Dame even this weekend. Not by much. Now, these numbers could change. These numbers could change a little bit, not by much, but I mean, even if it was number 2, Colorado at Oregon would have even been number 2 compared to Ohio State and Notre Dame. That says something about the Deion effect.
10.3 million. 5th highest watched game of all time is what they were saying this morning.
Yeah, this article was pulled at about 3 p.m. Central Time, so it's not like an older article. But I mean, again, even if it was number 2, even if it fell to number 2, if the numbers updated, point is to be right behind Ohio State, Notre Dame. That says something, and all that says to me is, well, Oregon got the eyes. That's all that happened. Is Oregon got the viewership really out of that.
Yeah, it's a win-win. I mean, how many people in the nation, outside of obviously, being Pac-12 fans or, those select few Buff fans that are out there that have been watching these guys religiously, how many people, on the East Coast are going to sit down and make it a point to tune into a Colorado game prior to this year? I mean, obviously, they have been absolutely horrendous as a program, cumulatively speaking, but, like you said, this is the Deion effect, love it or hate it, 10 million people tuning into a Colorado at Oregon game. Prior to this year, if you would have told me this was going to be a thing, I would have laughed in your face and said, you are insane. This is probably more viewers than Colorado had all year, period, combined last year. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, love it or hate it, the Deion effect is very real here.
Well, and it goes back to like what Lanning said, I think yesterday or earlier today, of like, if you don't see what Deion's done for college football, then you're just an idiot. Like, he's done so much, whether it's the viewership, it's money, it's the media. Like, he's done so much for college football, and it's not just the fact that it's Colorado.
Well, and that's why with this showing how this looks. So again, even if it was actually number 2, whatever, that's still extremely high numbers for a Colorado at Oregon game. This wasn't like a 1 versus 2 matchup or something like that. It was 10 versus 19. I mean, it wasn't. But that's why we had to discuss, as a lot of people saw it because it was aired. But a lot of the downfall, so to say, or Twitter action, as you pointed out to me, Spaz, which I didn't notice until today. It's been everywhere on my YouTube feed. Everywhere today, everyone's talking about it. Crazy on my YouTube feed. I'm like, what is happening? And so for those of you who didn't see it, this is what we're talking about. This is what the media is talking about. This is Dan Lanning's, part of Dan Lanning's pregame speech.
The Cinderella story is over, man. Right? They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins. There's a difference. Right? There's a difference. Right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood. It's going to be played on the grass. Right? It's going to be played on the grass.
Which, it still never gets old to me. I love that. I absolutely love that speech.
No.
That's a great little cut of the speech.
That's one of the best motivational speeches I've heard in a long time.
But people had the huge fallout about it, going, being negative about Deion.
It's
being
racist.
Negative about Deion. Oh, yeah, we have to get into a lot of that. And so that's it. A lot of people did see that. But a lot of people didn't see, I think, part of the reason a lot of that maybe was said. I'm sure he already had that in his head beforehand anyways, but what people didn't see was the pregame speech where Colorado was on the field. So compliments to Go Ducks for catching all of this footage. And this is a brief cut up of it, but this will explain a little bit more of why Oregon seems so aggressive towards Colorado. Not just because of the hype train, but what they did on the field.
This will explain Lanning's speech, what you're about to see.
And just how he played the game, I think. There we go.
This is a major stage because of Colorado.
Every station and TV station talking about Colorado.
Colorado.
We're talking about Colorado.
The most amazing story of the year in sports history.
It's not about it's personal anymore.
It's about they're coming to kick our ass.
Everybody's tired of hearing about
No question. No question.
and that's going to show up on the football.
The Cinderella story is over, man. Does that all mean something to you? Does that all mean something to you? Yeah, I sure as hell means something to me.
Hey, I'd like to report a crime to the murder to these ducks.
Again, that did not age well for that guy. That didn't age well at all. That took about 30 minutes, and he regretted saying those words.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of the points of, that really led up to the kind of the anger, frustration for Lanning a lot, especially the scraping of the O, but then to see the player walk around and go, I'm going to kick all your asses and your coaches.
Well,
like,
now it's
okay. No, I know, but I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, murder these ducks. Oh, y'all little, laughing at like the warm-ups, like, like go back to Colorado,
Like, boy, you got thrown like you a little boy by Troy Franklin. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of that pregame speech, I know a lot of people took it as like a personal shot at Deion. And, at least if you go to the media, I was watching like, multiple shows on like FS1 and, ESPN, obviously it's going to make news there, on Monday. And that speech was everywhere. And I think a lot of people were attacking Dan because, they're like, oh, he's a Deion hater. He hates what Deion's doing. To be real honest, at least how I took that when I first watched that, I don't really think that had a whole lot to do with Deion at all. In my opinion, what I think he was saying here is you guys aren't getting any respect. Like if you guys happen to catch it on Friday night, they brought Dan Lanning on to ESPN and they just were, they're going to talk to him, question him about, they obviously a big upcoming matchup against Colorado. There was a point he had 5 questions in a row that had nothing to do with Oregon, had nothing to do with their preparation, what they've done to this point, what they want to do in the game. It was, how do you feel about Deion? Is Deion do it? They were baiting him. They really wanted to get that bulletin board material. I think he was sick of it. And to be quite frank, I was sick of it as well. And one thing I made a point of on Saturday night is personally, now that this game is over, I'm back on the Colorado train. I'm rooting for Colorado again. I have nothing personal against Deion nor the program, to be real honest. I have no reason to hate him. But the thing I was getting sick of, I felt like Oregon wasn't getting that respect. This was the Colorado game this weekend. It had nothing to do with Oregon. And I think that was kind of the message he's pushing to these guys in the locker room is he's like, hey, we're working our asses off here. We're this dominant team. You know what I mean? He's like, and we get no respect to show for it. We're going to go out on this field and we're going to show them respect. And then, another one was like the Hollywood thing. They're like, oh, Oregon's all about the flash, all this and that. And once again, I don't think this had anything to do with Colorado nor Deion nor his approach to how he chooses to run this team. I think this is more about, just watching Colorado play last week against CSU, bringing Lil Wayne onto the field, having them walk out the tunnel, having The Rock, having Kevin Hart, having, X, Y, and Z dudes on these sidelines, like we were talking about prior, having Keyshawn and Terrell Owens and Warren Sapp and all these big names. It's, in a sense, he is bringing Hollywood to the game. And, I don't think that's a personal thing on Deion. It's, obviously he's a smart man. He's going to do what he does to get his program exposure. He's bringing him money, whether, anybody likes it or not. But once again, I think the point more so was we're here to play this game. We're here for one thing and one thing only. And I think that was more so Dan Lanning's message, at least into how I interpreted it. So yeah, like I said, I was ready to run through a wall myself. I was ready to jump on that field, man. I'll go get lit up. That's fine. I was ready to go, but I love the speech. And, I don't think it was anything personal. After the game, Deion wasn't mad himself. He understood how it was. It's more so the media narrative that kept driving and driving and driving and driving. And I think it finally kind of boiled up to a point where Dan said, all right, it's enough of this shit. We're going out to play this game. We're going to show you who we are and how we're going to establish ourselves. And, he did just that.
This reminds me of, kind of how we would talk about the University of Spoiled Children, in their Hollywood glam and their desire to do. That's kind of what this is like, but then it's just because it's Colorado. It's literally just Deion. And that's it. Everyone just got tired of it. Like you say, Dan Lanning got asked all these questions about Deion, not about, hey, what are you guys doing to prepare? How are you going to do this? That's why I said today, all of my YouTube has been filled with is now all these reactions to it, and including like I think we kind of chatted about with like Skip Bayless and the them doing their little take on it, and they still all back Deion, which is fine. But they don't say, hey, Oregon killed them. Deservedly so. Good win. They don't say that at all. They just go, Deion's going to have this going. Deion's going to have this going. But then again, these people are so dumb. They're like, wait till next year. We don't play them next year, you idiots.
Now
the talking heads on national television don't even know that the conferences change. So,
Pat McAfee said it this morning. Pat McAfee said it this morning on his show. He was like, did y'all watch that Oregon-Colorado game? He's like, man, them Ducks came to play. He says, them boys are no joke. They made Deion look terrible. He's like, they're there. He goes, I'm sold. He goes, that team is solid. Dan Lanning's a man, and he says, I got Oregon right now. I got Oregon there.
I think he said just send them to the playoff now. I think that's what he said. If I recall that correctly, and AJ Hawk was just like, I have no complaints with what you're saying, but that's just because he picked Colorado, not AJ Hawk, but McAfee picked Colorado. He was the only one that picked them to win, I think, that day on the game day.
No, actually, he didn't. Vince Vaughn did.
Vince Vaughn, yeah.
Okay, I just saw the screenshot.
Picture.
Okay, I just saw the screenshot. It was in front of McAfee. Maybe that's why I thought it was McAfee that picked it.
Yeah, it's just and Tony brings up a good point. He's like, these guys are entertainers; they're not analysts, and that's 100% the truth. I was like there was one comment in particular on one show that really got to me, and I can't remember the name of the show. It's on FS1. It's with LaShawn McCoy is on there. Keyshawn Johnson's on the very same show, but they're talking to a point. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, same show, and the mic gets to LaShawn McCoy, and he's like, Dan Lanning, he's corny, he's a hater, he's attention seeker, da-da-da-da. He's like, what's his name? Dan Lemming, da-da-da-da-da. And it was at that very moment where I realized it doesn't matter how this game was going to play out. It didn't matter what Dan did. It didn't matter if he was in the locker room prior to the game and he's like, we love and respect Colorado. We're going to go out there and treat them with respect the entire time. It didn't matter. They are so angry that this hype train that they've been pushing and pushing came to a screeching halt to a point this week, that they were just spewing stuff over the air, and he was fuming on air, and it was, I don't know, that was one that really got to me.
Did you said LaShawn McCoy?
Yeah.
Well, remember, LaShawn McCoy is also the one who called Chip Kelly a racist for trading from the Eagles back in the day. He said, he's a, and I'm like, I believe Chip Kelly's been coaching in college and the NFL for plenty of years, and no one's ever had a complaint. It's just you don't like what he did. It has nothing to do with him or his personality or his character. You just don't like him.
Well, Sean McCoy blames Chip Kelly for ruining his NFL career at that point. So,
that's what I mean. He just didn't like the decision he made. Basically, yeah, but that's all it is.
And then I believe it was like Emmanuel Acho, who's also on the show. He's like, you got to give it to him. They're like, Oregon's a college football playoff contender, and LaShawn, he's like, no, I wouldn't say that. He's like, they're not even a conference contender, da-da-da-da. And it was like, once again, it's just pushing these angry buttons to try to get these clicks off. And, it's just, the word clicks has become a hot fire topic this week. And, I think in the media, that's exactly what's happening. It was wild.
I will say.
Let's talk about this defense. Did you put those numbers that I sent you up?
I did. We're gonna get into the defense. Hold on. We got a couple little things. What were you saying, Sean?
The clicks are what the media is kind of getting on. Is like they're searching for clicks. We're searching for wins, and this game isn't played in Hollywood. It's played here on the grass. Like that's what they're trying to hang on. When in all reality, that speech was 10 seconds. Whether as us Duck fans wanted to run through a wall of Lanning, that wasn't all of Lanning's speech. That was just a broad little spectrum of it.
Well, that's it. I mean, that was kind of the highlight, the crescendo, so to say. I think, let's go at the end. But I mean, before we go in, because we're going to look at the defense, but I didn't want to forget and lose focus and track of how about our punter too with that fake punt, Casey Rogers, the big 300-pounder. That showed the absolute disrespect that we had for Colorado to fake a punt for 4th and 4 on our own 17-yard line. That showed the disrespect. That showed that Dan Lanning was like, we're going to whoop their ass. It doesn't matter where we are on the
around
field.
here.
Well, I think it's crazy that they jumped to disrespect, and I think it was Des Bryant who was the first one who was like he wanted to disrespect Deion by going for it. Okay, there's a couple things that make me really think that. First off, I believe it was definitely either first or second quarter. It was early in that game. I believe it was 13-0 at that point.
It was beginning. It was like a minute and a half into the second quarter, 4th and 4 from like our own 17-yard line.
Perfect.
That's why I said disrespect, because that's all I've heard about it.
At that point, it's a 2-score game. It's obviously a close game. You as a coach, I think you'd ask anybody if you have the opportunity to take a wind out of someone's sails, no matter how you're going to do it, and you think you have the means to do so, you're going to pull the trigger. And my other thing here is we just last year saw Dan Lanning take these, go for it on 4th down in our own territory, and it came back to bite us in our ass. It has nothing to do with Colorado on the other side. It has everything to do with he thinks in his head, he's like, if I can get the advantage here, I'm getting the advantage here. And, lo and behold, once Casey Rogers sprints 18 yards down the field, you could just see the demeanor. You could feel the demeanor just drop on the Colorado side.
I texted you guys and I said, there's aggressive Lanning. I like it. I like it.
And that's just who he is. And I think people, because they're not sitting here watching Oregon week in and week out like we are, obviously half the country, 90% of the country doesn't get the Pac-12 network, which, unfortunately we have to play a decent chunk of our games on. They're not getting to see this, but this isn't uncommon. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. It doesn't matter if the opponent's Washington. It doesn't matter if it's Alabama. It doesn't matter if it's a Jackson State. Dan Lanning is going to be Dan Lanning. He has his identity. He's going to push what he wants to do, how he thinks things should be done. And, it's nice to have a coach with an identity. So I don't understand this spewing this hate at him for disrespecting an opponent in a 2-score game in the second quarter in your own territory, where if you don't get that, man, I'm telling you, obviously we saw how the game played out, but there's a real opportunity for the momentum to start swinging at that point right there. Colorado has to go 18 yards to score it, and it's all of a sudden it's a 1-score game. You know what I mean? So I'm not hearing that disrespect. I'm not hearing any of that.
And I'm not hearing
Brian's just crying because nobody's picked him up to play any more football.
And I'm not hearing that disrespect either. I don't really think that's disrespect. I think that was really just Lanning saying, hey, I've got the biggest balls in college football to go for this.
Yeah, I don't recall anyone saying disrespect last year when we played UCLA against Chip Kelly, and they did the onside kick and got it, went for it multiple times on 4th down on their side of the field against it. I didn't hear any disrespect against Chip Kelly. It's just because it's Deion. So it's just a narrative that people are pushing, and there's no reason for it. It's just Lanning. He's like, we have the upper hand. I trust our defense right now. Let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice. Why
That's
not?
the thing. You can completely deflate a team's, you could see it. You could feel it to that point. The defense was getting scored on at will. The offense could not move the ball to save their ass. And then you take the one phase that, it's most likely going to be a pretty balanced thing, and then you shove that down their throats too. They had nothing to lean on, It was a great play call. I loved it.
Hey, put that boy Casey Rogers at running back 4. William the Fridge Perry, that have a whole package just for him.
He should just become the fullback. He should just become the fullback. Because we don't have that many tight ends. Put that man at fullback and or right behind Bo and do the push.
Well, we all remember the Noah Sewell goal line package. What's stopping him from a Casey Rogers goal line package?
300-pound D lineman,
50 pounds more than Noah Sewell. So come on,
Casey Rogers is not quite as athletic as Noah Sewell, but he's pretty powerful.
Well, it's 4th and 1.
Casey Rogers into the tush push.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like someone was saying, that defense and Spaz. I know you wanted this, so yes, exactly. Let's give the defense some love before we look at Stanford, because after a few weeks, we were saying, hey, we understand it's Portland State, it's Hawaii, and then even Texas Tech, which put up yards on us. Well, now we just took one of the best offenses in, I think, arguably in football through 3 weeks, one of the best offenses, and held it to nothing. Basically the same as Hawaii and Portland State, 199 yards. So Oregon right now is ranked the 11th overall defense in the nation, which is it's going to change when we start really playing the better teams. But I'm okay with that number right now. That's that's a good number. I mean, we said, hey, if we stay in like the 30th range of the nation overall, we're in good shape. So to start this high, okay, I like what I'm seeing at least.
But I mean, if you really think about it with this defense too, though, like that touchdown they did score was on our second and third stringers. If those first teamers are still out there, we're probably right there at 7 or 8.
Well, and that's it. In years past, even with really good defenses, they always pulled everyone out usually in the mid-third to fourth quarter. And so the other team would go up and down the field, and that would change the statistic quite a bit on the defensive line, numbers.
Here's the total breakdown. We are number 11 total, third in the Pac-12. We're 18th in sacks, 4th overall in the Pac-12, 16th in scoring defense, 3rd in the Pac-12, 32nd in rush defense, 4th in the Pac-12, 9th overall in passing yards allowed, number 1 in the Pac-12, 21 in first down defense, which is tied for 3rd in the Pac, 35th in third down defense, which is 3rd in the Pac, and number 9 in turnover margin, tied for 1st in the Pac.
Yeah, turnovers are something we'd like to see a little more of. Most of those came during Tech game, obviously.
We're still number 9 in turnover margin in the country.
No, I mean, that's good. I think a lot of those came during Tech. We had opportunities against Colorado, but we couldn't quite get them.
Such as like that Kyrie Jackson.
Oh, there's USC. Someone said USC. USC is 70th. Not surprised by that. Not surprised by that. Shockingly, Colorado didn't fall that far because I had this other tab open for Colorado. They only dropped from 122 to 125.
Yeah, but we're right over CSU.
Oh, man. now they're below Colorado State. That's funny. That is funny. I didn't even notice that. That's funny. And well, since we're here, because we are going to get to Stanford here, I guess we'll just start with the defenses. So Oregon's number 11. This is a good segue into it. Oregon's ranked number 11 defense in the nation. Stanford, speaking of Stanford, they're right here, is 118th defensively in the country. I see another Colorado game coming up when it comes to the Stanford game.
I mean, you could make a real case that Stanford is one of the worst P5s in the country. I mean, obviously we talk about teams like Virginia and, BC's been trash forever, but Stanford is hot garbage. And I think, like you said, I think we're kind of in for another Colorado game. I think this should be a game where we kind of see that offense go down and score at will. Stanford's not particularly good at stopping the pass nor the run. Far from a turnover machine over there too. So things could get ugly.
Yes, here we go. Since we were talking about stats and the game, I'll just drop this to the stat line here.
96.
Yeah.
Was it 92 last week?
Stanford is surprisingly decent against the rush, but the only team they've really played that has even literally a pulse is USC. and they got obliterated.
Yeah,
I think
it's going to get ugly.
yeah, and they're not good against the pass. That is 307 yards a game passing allowed. Yeesh.
And yeah, that's against Arizona, Sac State. That's no Bo Nix. They're not playing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the Caleb Williams game they already had to play, but we see how they fare against a competent quarterback, and looks like a minus 46 margin here. So I think Bo is going to have a field day.
Ready to Dave. Hey, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, their mascot's cool, I guess. Their sideline presence.
I mean,
their lack of
see
fans.
the tree.
The lack of fans in the stands, stuff like that. I think they started selling alcohol at the stadium too, finally, last season, I believe. So that helps.
Those 32 fans are about to be turned on Saturday.
Their band's kind of weird, though. Their band is kind of weird.
Well, Caleb Williams only threw for 281 against Stanford. So that is 3 TDs, but he was 19 for 21. So
yeah, so like I said,
Stanford had more rushing yards than USC did in that game, believe it or not.
Yeah, Stanford's rushing is not terrible. 164 yards a game, 165 basically. It's not terrible. I mean, that's not exactly, the worst of the FBS or anything. I mean, that's way better than Colorado's averages, So, I mean, Stanford actually does try to run the ball.
Yeah, they had 209 compared to USC's 180.
They ran the ball 40 times.
There we go.
They only threw the ball 25 times. They have, I don't even know who their quarterback is. Lamson?
Justin Lamson.
And Ashton Daniels.
Well, regardless who they put back there, I think they're in for a very, very long Saturday.
Fun fact.
Oh, it's going to be
football. Fun fact: Stanford is better than football team than Hawaii. Good job, Tony.
Yeah,
good job, Tony.
We're setting the bar real high here.
Hey, so is Colorado then, but you just seen what happened there.
Yeah,
it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's not. I mean, their QB. Sorry, wrong tab there. They have a mix of QBs that have thrown for a bunch. I think now they're still settled on Ashton Daniels, I believe. Unless they're on Justin Lamson now. I don't know if one got injured or if they just flip-flopped their quarterbacks, because obviously both of them have quite a bit of attempts.
And Lamson was really only from the USC game. Daniels was in there.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're just doing it
played against Arizona.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing I'm looking at
last week against Arizona.
But either way, their passing numbers are not.
Last week against Arizona, it was Daniel.
Yeah, so we'll probably see him again this weekend. I mean, like I said, Daniels, Lamson, Johnny Unitas, it don't matter.
Yeah,
Lamson
14 for 26 for 100
passes.
Oh yeah, Emmitt Smith Jr. is on Stanford, I believe.
Oh, that's right. That is Emmett's kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he's regretting his decision to go to Stanford over Florida yet.
Oh.
Questionable.
Yeah, no doubt.
Either way, they're not the greatest passing team. Rushing, not terrible. Defense, obviously not great. Obviously, we've seen the defense numbers. And then their key wide receiver is their tight end, which is a very Stanford thing to have. Just have a tight end be the top receiver. It's very Stanford-like still.
Hey, they outgained Arizona by 5 yards last week.
And they lost by 1 point. Sounds about right.
It is
Yeah,
Arizona.
Jaden Delora almost gave that game away. They had to have a backup.
Hey, I met the
come
kid.
in
He's not a great football player, okay?
Delora?
Yeah. Great person, but not a great football player.
Yeah. He only throws for 157 yards against pitiful Stanford.
Yeah, you give them one of those weird games, in the pack you get once in a while like that. Because, Stanford, again, their defense is just not good. From all the numbers that we've seen, their defense is just not good. I mean, because then you go into, Oregon numbers, and Bo Nix himself has eclipsed both their quarterbacks combined with more touchdowns and less turnovers. Less sack yardage because, of course, he has 3 now, technically. And then our rushing numbers are well above theirs. So I don't know. I'm not expecting a letdown this weekend, but I guess that's the whole point is, do we expect the defense to do what they did this last weekend to Colorado? Or are we going to see kind of a hangover week, basically? It happens. I mean, it happens after that type of game, when they come out and be physical and stuff, and then they have Stanford.
Well, I feel like, it is Stanford. Like we were saying before, it's the Arizona to Washington. Always comes out and plays as hard, whether Stanford sucks or not. I don't feel like it'll be a hangover game. I feel like we're going to come out and be ready. I mean, Dan had the boys ready to go. He takes it a week at a time. It's not, okay, we just got this big win. Now let's look forward to Washington because Stanford's going to be a cakewalk.
Oh, 100%. We've talked about how, in previous years, we've seen these letdowns happen. We've definitely seen Oregon go in and lose to, it doesn't matter if it's state. We've seen Oregon lose to some teams they had absolutely no business losing to in previous years. The difference for me being here is, I think it comes down to the coaching style, the amount of preparation you take in, what you choose, where your focus lies that week. And, obviously I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea personally. This is all speculation, but I don't think Dan strikes me as the type of dude who's going to allow this kind of hangover to happen. Something tells me as soon as they hit the practice field on Monday, it was on to Stanford business as usual. We're going to go out there and we're going to be ourselves and we're going to, assert our dominance like they expect to do week in and week out. So, in terms of a hangover game, I could see it being maybe a thing where there's a slow start. I could see it being a thing maybe Stanford puts up a few more points than we're thinking just because of the defensive performance last week and where that lies. But in terms of, the long run of the duration of the game, with all due respect to Stanford, I really don't see there being a hangover type game happening this week, at least in my opinion.
Well, and I think that's the important part because that's the only thing is we just mentioned it. There's been those fluky games where Oregon has gotten behind, come back. They should never have lost, not even been challenged by Stanford. Then there's those games where Oregon's been controlled, but we've allowed Stanford to come back. and take victory from us. And then there was those years vice versa where Stanford's really good and Oregon kind of meh, and Oregon goes and hurts Stanford. So it's kind of that jinx. Yeah, it's like a curse to a degree. I don't see it this year. I think Stanford is right where everyone thought they would be, as potentially one of the worst Power 5 teams, and they are 1-3 right now. And they lost to Sacramento State, an FCS team. Thanks, Stanford, for ruining the Pac-12 non-con record against FCS teams this season. So, I don't. Yeah, I don't see this the way that Lanning is doing the team we have now. I don't see it, but would I be shocking if the first quarter is a little more uncomfortable than we would like it to be? No.
No, and that's kind of my point too. I just don't think Stanford has the means to hang around. Like we said, clearly, the run game subpar, passing game's far from spectacular. Defensive wise, I think the only way that they would really be able to hang in that game is if they're able to come up with a lot of big plays. Turnovers are happening frequently, and it's just based off what they've done, playing teams like Sac State and a down BYU team, and it's not happening.
Yeah, I could see that first quarter kind of being maybe even the first half being a little uncomfortable, but I don't foresee it really kind of getting out of hand to that point where we're sitting here texting each other like, oh shit, we're uncomfortable the whole game. Like,
I see it going about. I think Lanning wants to make a point this weekend again, and just keep doing it, especially before a bye week to rest up. I think mid-third quarter we're going to see the starters go out, and get the backups in, which kind of brought up this type of question too: is do we like seeing Ty get the reps, or do we want Novosad to get some good reps in the game?
Personally, for me right now, I would say Novosad, because I feel like Ty has 1 or 2 more years of eligibility. If we're kind of set on Novosad kind of going forward, he needs to get some reps in there too. But if they're redshirting him, he's only got a few games he can kind of play, and he's already played in PSU and Texas Tech. So
yeah, because Ty has 2. After this, he has technically 2 more years.
I believe 2.
And Novosad will still have 4 if they full continue the red shirt anyways, as long as they don't break the red shirt. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind Novosad getting the reps, but I think at this point, I think we have to assume next year Ty will be the guy as long as he continues to look. But Novosad will be competing with him, so you kind of have to go take the experienced guy or give it to. That's kind of a toughy decision there on the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think this year, as we sit right now, I would rather see Ty Thompson get these reps. My logic here is that, like Mark said, don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but, Sabo unfortunately does go down, whether it be, a half, a quarter, a whole game, multiple weeks. We know who we're seeing. Austin Novosad is not going to be the one starting. We know Ty Thompson will be the one in that QB2 position. If it does come down to that, I would rather have him get his feet wet right now, take his lumps right now if you need to. But I would rather have him kind of iron these things out right now than I would have him go out there and, jump in the fire and just see what happens. So to be honest, I like seeing him get these reps. I think they are meaningful reps at the end of the day. And for that reason, I do think that we see Ty Thompson get some serious playing time, probably, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, like we've been seeing the past couple of weeks that, kind of gotten out of hand. But I like to see Ty get these reps just in case, because, this is college football. It's any given Saturday. You never know when injuries pop up, what's going to happen week to week. So, it's best to be prepared for those situations, have something happen, than to, just go out there and say, all right, buddy, good luck. Because, as we've seen last year, that doesn't fare well for Oregon.
I am the only concerning part to me about it is that even when Ty goes in the game, like he did against Colorado, they only had him throw it twice. Had they let him throw it like 10, 12 times, I'd been like, okay, they have confidence. Now, again, they weren't trying to run the score at that point, but when they let him in the game, they're not exactly letting him loose to see what he can do. That's the little concerning part still. Because whenever he's had that before, he always throws picks. Now, this year he hasn't done that, but he's only thrown it 16 times over 4 games. And all of that was in garbage time. So I'd like to let him loose. Give him 3/4 of the playbook and say, throw it and see if he can really run the offense, in a game situation.
As much as I want to say just let Ty start, I still feel like we need to get that score up first before even Ty comes in.
Well, no. I mean, even in garbage time, I'd like to let him just take the reins and for a couple drives, full playbook, score a couple touchdowns, full speed or something like that to go, okay, he's got this. Like we see this now. Because other than that, they've been babying him for multiple years over the staffs.
I think he needs that. I think if we're in the position this week that we were last week with Colorado against Stanford on Saturday, if it's 35-0 or 35-3 or something like that at the half, I would fully love to just see Ty come out in the second half and at least for the third quarter run the complete offense, give him the complete playbook and let him run with it. And then you let Novostad come in and clean it up at the end. That's my ideal situation. Ty needs those reps. He needs to feel comfortable with this offense so that we feel more comfortable as a fan base, and I'm sure as a coaching staff as well, that they don't have to go lurking into the fucking portal next year again.
Well, I mean, you look at it. I mean, we have Ty, then we have Novosad, then we have our guy. Is it Martin? The fourth string. He's the unknown, the forgotten quarterback. He's just like the fourth stringer, like the practice squad guy. But then we have the recruiting class coming in too. So I mean, that's it. If Ty doesn't get it this next year, if he's not the starter, I mean, he either leaves or he's just going to be the guy that sits there as the second string forever, which is fine if that's what he wants to do and be, and that's who he wants to be. That's perfectly fine.
I feel like too, like if Ty doesn't get it, even so, and we're gonna go look in the transfer portal because that's what college football is now. It's transfer portal. You build teams via the transfer portal. You can have these really good recruiting classes, but
this is possible. This is possible that Novosad does beat out Ty next year. This is possible. I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked by it, to be honest. Novosad is more of a pocket passer, whereas Ty is a dual threat. So it depends on what Stein wants. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Time out. Where's our lunch money, Two Changs?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Two Changs was throwing lunch money at us on Sunday night, all night long. He was roasting. He was roasting USC specifically.
Oh my God.
roasting USC. He had Tim all up in a mad state Sunday night.
Yeah, Tim was feeling. That was funny.
I wouldn't be surprised though. Novosad beat out Ty. It just depends on what Stein wants, because Stein, you can tell this year, wants a pocket passer. Despite the fact that Bo is mobile, Bo still has not run the ball. Hardly at all.
No.
Really?
No.
I think, where's my lunch money?
It's all about development at this point. It's about how are you performing now? How much are you growing? And is that growth, is it quickly rising? Are you a slow learner? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Ty Thompson, clearly, he's taken his lumps over the years to get to where he is now, which is still a question mark in all of our heads, I think. But at this point, right now, if I were to guess, John, I think there's a decent chance we do see a transfer portal pickup next year. Now, take that with a grain of salt, whether that's, bringing someone in for competition, which we've seen before, like Dakota Prukop coming in. That was more of a competition thing, as we saw who ended up losing his job halfway through the year. But I think what we see next year is likely a bridge quarterback. You know, you're going to give some time for, you know, the Novosad to develop. Michael Van Buren, who's coming in, you know, our QB recruit in this 2024 class, you know, it gives him a year in the program. He'll likely be a redshirt at that point. Ray Today brings up a good point. 2025, Akili Smith Jr. is, you know, a highly touted prospect at this point, still rising up the rankings in terms of his stardom and, you know, where he is in the top 300 and such. But I think at this point, just what we've seen, how we know Oregon has functioned, and with the success of Bo Nix coming in via the transfer portal, I mean, you know, none of us sat here when he was coming in and probably went, yes, national title contender. Bo is going to be a Heisman contender. Nobody thought that. You know what I mean? I mean, he was a formidable quarterback, and he definitely showed flashes at Auburn. But what I think that shows is you just bring these guys in and you allow them to have the opportunity to compete for that position. You know, good things are likely going to happen in that competitive environment. And I have a feeling, you know, obviously we have no idea who it could be at this point, but I have a feeling more likely than not, we bring in someone via the portal in that QB room just to either, whether that's meant to be a starter right off the bat, whether it's an established starter, or like I said, you know, just kind of fuel that competition, because we know Dan Lanning loves his competition, and that's great. You know, iron sharpens iron. But, you know, it's all speculation. We're going to see. A lot of things can change between now and then.
Yeah, we're going to have a crazy deep QB room with Van Buren and Ty and Novostat.
Well, and mind you, we have 2 QB recruits coming in next year too. So, you know, Luke Moga, he's a 3-star QB recruit at this point.
Luke Moga, yeah.
You know, he's someone who we've seen his stock rise since the start of, you know, the fall season in college football this year, in high school football this year. You know, it's you never really know. You never really know what that development's going to look like as things progress, or how, you know, Dan Lanning and co wants to move forward. So yeah, like you said, there's going to be a lot of competition that takes place in that QB room next year. At this point, I'm not sure I see anybody, you know, starting a true freshman and being successful in a P5 conference right off the bat. You know, it's not impossible. We've seen it happen plenty of times, albeit it is rare. So, you know, we'll see.
Well, and just as noting by Rated Dave here too, is it'll be next year is going to be really interesting, especially having Akili Smith Jr. coming in the next year. That's going to be, obviously he'll probably redshirt, but still, you could be.
He don't come in until 25.
Yeah, so next year we still have to deal with next year, but after that, then they'll probably redshirt him. So we still have 2-year probably area of we need a quarterback. So,
well, and a name that popped up with Tony was Dante Moore. Obviously, he was committed, but with how he's doing at UCLA, yes, he's a starter right now, but it's possible he hops into that portal. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I think they're giving him the reins, though. You can see it. You know, just look at the snap count between week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. We've constantly seen Dante Moore's snap count climbing, you know, and overall, you know, he had a little bit of a rough patch against Utah this weekend, and I can't even blame him for it. You know, being a true freshman going into Salt Lake City, we've seen veteran quarterbacks on our side go into Salt Lake City and play like that. So I'm not going to sit here and trash that man for anything. That's a very good defense and a very difficult place to play. But, you know, I think if they continue to feed him and allow him to be the guy coming in, you know, I don't know if it happens, albeit once again, they also have a deep QB room coming in next year, because the guy who's behind him, the transfer from, I think it was Kent State, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, he's still got another year of eligibility as well. So, I mean, you just never know, man. And that's kind of the fun of college football in my eyes. We have zero idea. You know, once again, coming into last year, we've never Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington, when they were coming into our running back room, we're like, who the hell are these guys? You know, and then all of a sudden we're sitting here halfway through the season and we're like, these guys are fucking awesome. So you just never know.
Is there any update on Whittington too?
You know,
really, just 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just the way, you know how Dan is with his injuries, he's not going to come out and say it's a high ankle sprain. From what I'm seeing from, you know, the beat reporters and the speculation that kind of takes place on that end, the theory is that it is a high ankle sprain, just how they were addressing it post game, how they're choosing to address it going forward with Dan saying he's out a couple weeks. That's kind of consistent with that high ankle sprain. So I'm going to go out and guess that's kind of what we're looking at. But once again, it's all speculation.
Well, and that's good. We're not going to get into the Washington game. I told these boys, relax. We're not talking about Washington yet. We have Stanford, then a bye week. So that gives at least a couple weeks to potentially heal up and see if he can get back to, depending on what it was exactly or how bad it was, give him a little time to heal up too. So that's good. We don't need him for Stanford. It's unfortunate because that's 2 games now he's gotten dinged up with something, Portland State and now this. It's that kind of that sucks for him, of course.
Yeah, but it's like we were saying on Saturday night too. It's like our running back room is deep. Like, we lose a running back. Yes, it sucks that Whittington's out, especially for 2 or 3 weeks. But we don't have to worry about, okay, Bucky's going to have to carry the ball 25, 30 times and worry about if Bucky's going to get hurt. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's depth in that room right now. That was something we talked about coming into the season, is we knew running back depth was going to be an absolute strength of ours. Between the 3 backs, who are typically touching the ball, the true freshmen, Dante Dowdell and Jaden Lamar coming in as well. You got options there. I think it really helps with the emergence of Jordan James, not only at the goal line last year, but kind of how he's taken that load and progressing to be more of a second, third down back. I'm really comfortable with where we sit because it's 2 different styles of play, change of pace back. And then, albeit at that, you're having when your RB3 and 4 are formidable as well. It's impressive.
I mean, again, put Casey Rogers back there. All right, he'll do the job.
Yeah, man.
Big boy running.
I thought it was funny, when they panned in on that Oregon video. He's like, man, I should have played tight end. And then I watched another little video of him, and he's like, man, I was a tight end in high school. And he's like, once my legs do get moving, he's like, I'm a big boy, but I can really get moving. He's like, I surprised some people. And, man, when I saw him run past a linebacker, I was like, holy shit, this man actually has some wheels on him.
Well, he's a former
he got
star too.
What was that, Sean?
He was a former rugby star in New York too.
Yeah, I'm saying. Athletes, man. There's athletes everywhere.
Edgin was gone.
Yeah. I saw another little blurb, and they were talking about, actually, Spaz, we might have been talking about this on Saturday night as well, but how they saw that defensive alignment, or special teams alignment on the Colorado end, and they saw that linebacker trickle to the outside. And then you saw that little hand communication behind the line and take off and do it. It was it was cool to kind of see the in-play adjustments that were able to happen, followed by the aggression and the confidence too, man. It was it's cool.
Yeah, he had said in the post game, because I have the Oregon audio app, so I've been following the Ducks for so long. I listen to their guys a lot of times, and they were talking in the post game. They had him in the locker room, and he was talking about how when they were on the sideline before that 4th down came up, they said, okay, if we end up having to punt, we may pull the play. And they went up to Casey and told him what to do. They got out there, and he thought they were just going to punt, and at the last second they saw whatever defensive adjustment was. They saw the one guy that they needed to move out of the one position. He slid out, and that's when they audibled at the line and called for the punt, for the fake, and that's how they made the 18-yard famouser.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of those plays we look back at the end of the year and we're like, oh yeah, that was a game-changing play right there. That completely deflated anything that happened, man. It was great.
Yeah, now it's 21-0 and they're done.
Well, I was going to pull up a couple tabs here, but you know what? I kind of want to wait till next week when we go into the bye week, about almost halfway through the season. I'm going to actually hold off on these. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of the midway of the season part. Let USC get into Colorado, us deal with Stanford, hit the bye week, and then we look at these other specifics kind of stats I had kind of thought about it. But gentlemen, do you have any other final thoughts again for Colorado / going into Stanford? Because then we have our final segment of the night coming up, which is a very heated segment.
I guess I'd kind of say just definitely don't look past Stanford, like we do, as you say, Ben, have that Stanford curse. Like, even if they may be this way, definitely don't look past them and look forward to the bye week and then on to our next opponent. This is one game at a time.
Yeah, once again, one game at a time. I think my thing here is I want to see another complete game. There is absolutely zero reason under the sun why all three phases of the game should not dominate this game once again. I think, like you said, Dan wants to come out and make a point too. Oregon's not – they didn't come out for 1 week and 1 week only and give it everything they had, and they're going to come in this week against Stanford and lay an egg. I think it's about consistency. It's about, establishing an identity, letting everybody know exactly who you are. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see this week is I do think, they're going to put up a lot of points. I think Dan's going to be aggressive. They're going to do everything they want to do. Once again, I think this is going to be treated like a Hawaii game, where you kind of want to treat it as a glorified scrimmage in the sense that you want to start to polish yourself up in certain areas in game as opposed to, trying to do it in practice. Like, as we all know, in-game reps mean more, just in terms of development and, live game speed is a lot different than practice and such. So I would like to see a complete game on all ends. Another thing, we alluded to earlier was I would like to see them open that playbook up a little bit for Ty Thompson. I kind of want to see him get his feet wet in terms of actually having to read a defense and, being able to make some of those in-game adjustments live as opposed to, running it in practice and having someone in his ear hole every time saying, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what they're running. This is how we need to attack it. I want to see him get in there and, start to read those defenses on his own. But yeah, if we can have a complete game, I'll be a happy camper.
Spaz, get off your Chrome pad or whatever you're playing with over there.
What's that?
What do you I don't know. What do you think? What do you want to see this week? Kind of the final thought before Stanford.
Just want to see solid play on all three levels. Don't go in there being a cakewalk because any given Saturday, we all know, we've all been there. And just continue to execute. And do the right thing and don't get any crazy injuries.
There you go. Injuries is a big one too. Get out healthy.
Yeah, I think the same. Just we need to go and just treat it just like
hey, Frank, piss off.
I saw it.
He's trolling me.
I ignore the trolls. I agree
one
with
of my
this,
buddies.
No, I agree with this though. We need to just go and smash Stanford. I mean, that's what we should do, but do it without injuries and just try to clean up, work on some of those little things that they don't get the real game reps to do. Practice is different than in a game scenario. Everyone knows that, even if it's Stanford with no one in the stands.
Practice,
it's
not
still
making penalties.
Yeah, so, I mean, they should go in and the score at halftime should look like Colorado, if not worse. Probably worse. I don't know why, I think, but probably worse. Stanford's just not impressive this year at all. So that's all I can think. And, yeah, that's it. No hangover and just no Stanford jinx, no Stanford curse. Chop the tree down. Make that guy go hide in the locker room,
I love 2 Chain's last one. That's great.
You need to be ready to destroy it. Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's the thing. We should. we should destroy them. And
No, he's USC one.
well, yes, of course. But we're gonna let USC play Colorado, and we're gonna see, because then we can start having the head-to-head conversation about opponents. That's why we have to wait on some of these, because now we play Colorado, USC will play Colorado, USC plays Stanford. Now we're gonna play Stanford. Then we can start comparing the team stats. That's what's gonna make it that much more fun coming up soon, is because you'll actually see head-to-heads and the differences. But now, to the most heated topic of the night, the most hated time amongst the four of us, score projection time. Because after last week, I am absolutely disgusted with Sean. Because once again, Sean bested me for a win 2 weeks in a row by 1 point each week in the score projections. 1 point each week.
You know what? That's just because I'm better than you. You just gotta live with that.
That means I'm so close. I can't get there. I'm just so close.
I just wait for your score to come out, and I just purposely just guess lower and a little bit higher. Okay.
It's so sad because you came up with the idea.
$10,
You came up with the
range.
idea, Ben, and you can't win your own idea. Yeah. Fuck off.
It's all love on this show, as everybody can tell.
Remember, it only takes 1 week where you get the correct score perfect, and you get 2 points. So just like that, I could catch up this week and be tied for first.
That's what you really think.
That's not what I really think. It's just that actually could happen. I didn't say I think that's going to happen. That literally could happen. Pay attention, Sean. Well, guess what, Sean? In Ritual, because you won last week, you also have to go first.
Okay. Let's see.
The final score projection for Oregon at the mighty Stanford Cardinals.
I'm seeing a lot of 50s in chat, but I'm going to go 63-10.
All right, 63-10. It is written down. It is now officially in the books. And that goes to, I will go. I haven't gone second yet, so I will go second. I'm kind of leaning our defense the same kind of thing, but I'm going to give our defense the benefit of the doubt for last week. I'm going to say something really random, like 56-7.
Yeah, so you're getting pretty close to that USC score. Wasn't that 56-10? I think when we just looked. Something like
that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Derek, you are up next.
You know, this game, I would really love to sit here and say it's going to be, 60s, 70s. I think Stanford, just because of Stanford's pace of play, they run things a little bit differently, like to use their tight end, something we struggle with, as we saw in the Texas Tech game. I'm going to go with 48-13 Oregon. I think they still win very handily. I think what we're going to see is, maybe they come out a little bit flatter than we'd like to see in that first quarter, but ultimately, the skill gap's just too big, and I think Oregon pulls away.
That's fair. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Definitely. I don't think that's out of the question. Spaz, you have the final guess.
55-13.
55-13. I like how he's just trying to split between you and me, Derek.
Yeah, I got that.
Spaz, this isn't The Price is Right. I mean, I did pull out The Price is Right rules the 1 week. I did pull those out.
Actually, yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it is The Price is Right.
I did pull them out 1 week because there was it was tough.
I think it's tough. Yeah, I think we're tied.
I didn't want to split half points. I didn't want to start going into half point mode. That would be a nightmare to start keeping track of. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm the one you pulled that rollout for. So,
what was that?
The one you pulled that rollout for. So,
Well, that was me taking dictator mode too. I was just like, no, this is how this is working. Damn it. Where was that? There was I just saw it here. All right, well, we got the scores. I will update the tab here. And, damn, wow, did we just get a lot more chats than I thought we did? Never mind.
Spaz losing his marbles down there.
Fucking you, Jay.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw something else. I scrolled too far. That's why I was like, oh, yeah. That should be a super chat this Sunday, especially if they lose to Colorado. Oh my God! If USC lost to Colorado, that would be like the most Pac-12 thing to happen. Just one of those Pac-12 things to happen.
Man,
we won't see Tim on the Sunday night show for a month if that happens.
Oh God, that would be. I would feel bad for them because I'd be like, yeah, you can kiss your Pac-12 title, folks, goodbye. I could immediately just pack it up for the season. Well, gentlemen, do we have anything else to cover before this glorious Stanford game? I mean, scrimmage. I mean game.
Yeah, no, nothing from me. Like I said, just want to go out there, see an ass kicking, be happy, go into the bye week with a big dub.
I got nothing. Just ready to watch it, be out there, be happy, talk some more shit.
Yep.
That's the key. That's what we feed off of.
I'm like dead today. I'm just like not here hardly. Long day.
Focus.
I'm trying. How about Ryan Day and Lou Holtz?
No, that we can. No. Poor Lou Holtz. Yeah, poor Lou Holtz. That man doesn't even know where he is anymore, I don't think.
Where's he at now? We're tough. It's everybody against the Ohio.
He still thinks Rudy plays for Notre Dame.
I was like, poor Lou Holtz. Yeah, that man's been going downhill for quite a few years.
That Pat McAfee guy that does the Lou Holtz. Did you see that Saturday where it was he's got a guy that dresses up like Lou Holtz and he was interviewing Lou Holtz and Lou Holtz went along with it on game day? It was great.
I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it. They're like, do you think Lou knew it was a joke? They're like, no, I don't think he even knew. I don't think he even knew it was a joke. I was like impersonating him. I was like,
oh, poor guy.
That's why I was like, Lou hasn't known where he is for several years.
We wish him well.
Sounds like Skip Bayless.
He's still going, but I don't think he can understand damn word he says anymore. I couldn't understand him 10 years ago when he went off the air. I couldn't even understand half what he said.
No, they just give him his grace because of who he's been for how long he's been there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can respect that.
I gotta give respect and love to Lou Holtz.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Spaz, Sean, Derek, please, one by one, I have it ticking here, but please promote yourselves and where people find you, just to make sure, in case they don't see the little ticker here at the bottom.
Well, everybody can catch me on Twitter right here. Twitter at Wait Who's Derek. Love to interact with you. Give me a follow. Otherwise, I'll see you here on Saturday night.
Yeah, you can catch me on TikTok at ChubbyNerd5. Also add me on Facebook. It's the same name right here. More than welcome to.
You got At the Rocky Classic on Twitter and Instagram and Sean Bryant on Facebook and TikTok, Sean Bryant 75.
And I'm just Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. You can find me right here, as it says, right here on YouTube under this name, Exploring with Ben and Sam, on Twitter at Exploring with Ben. But if you go into the YouTube, you'll find the Instagram and Twitter account linked into there. And you can find me on TikTok if you choose to. Who cares? It's TikTok. Don't rot your brains. Short attention span, motherfuckers. Damn, I let it slip. Damn it. I was so good about not dropping the F-bomb.
And here we go. Now we're going to have a violation.
I was so good about that, yeah. Luckily, Mark doesn't watch the full length of the video.
You've been canceled.
You can cancel me. Well, gentlemen, I thank you, and I thank the chat. Unless there's any other good comments here.
That's some more sloppy joes.
I could see Lou Holt saying that too. I could actually see him saying that for some reason.
Love the interaction, man. I love it.
Yeah, you got me there with that one too, Chings. I just had to pull that one up. You got me there. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you. I appreciate the chat, of course. Make sure to follow us on all of our little medias here. Catch us update here. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. And then make sure every Tuesday night at 9:15 Central Time, 7:15 Pacific, right here, Oregon Ducks Live on the Oregon Voice of College Football, as well as every Saturday when we're playing the game, or on Friday night, every post game within about an hour after the Oregon game. Check us here for the post game show live. And
my football blew up.
I don't want to know what you've been doing with that. We're going to end it on this. This is going downhill really fast. We will see you all next week. Have fun and take care.